Ethan didn't hesitate. He'd been a firefighter once, before tragedy stripped him of everything. Now he was just a single dad trying to make ends meet, living quietly by the docks. But that night, instinct kicked back in. "Stay in the boat, Noah." "No matter what happens," he ordered firmly. Grabbing the rope, Ethan leaped into the churning water, swimming toward the yacht. The fire hissed as embers hit the waves, and chunks of metal crackled as they peeled from the hull. Through the smoke, he heard coughing a man trapped on the upper deck. Ethan climbed up the slippery ladder, flames licking at his sleeves. He found a man unconscious beside the railing, his expensive suit torn, his face covered in soot. It was Alexander Knight, the reclusive billionaire philanthropist owner of Knight Enterprises, a man often on magazine covers but rarely seen in public. Ethan didn't care who he was. He just threw him over his shoulder and jumped into the black water below. The explosion came seconds later, lighting the sea like daylight. Ethan shielded the billionaire's head as debris rained down, using his own body to take the hits. By the time they reached the fishing boat, Noah was crying but helping his father pull the man aboard. Ethan checked for a pulse, weak but alive. "Dad, who is he?" Noah whispered. Ethan looked at the man's burned hands, the expensive watch melted against his skin. "Doesn't matter. He's just someone who needed help." When they reached the shore, the ambulance and news cameras were already there. Ethan set the man gently on the sand, covered him with his jacket, and before anyone could ask questions, he took Noah's hand and disappeared into the night. He didn't want attention. He didn't want money. He just wanted peace. But fate had other plans. Chapter 2: The Billionaire's Search. 2 weeks later, Alexander Knight woke up in the hospital with burns on his arms and bruises along his ribs. The last thing he remembered was the fire, and the strong arms that had carried him through the flames. "Who saved me?" he asked the nurse. "No name, sir. Witnesses said a fisherman pulled you out and left before anyone could identify him." That answer haunted Alexander. A man risked his life for him and vanished like a ghost. The billionaire, known for his precision and control, suddenly felt helpless. He spent days searching. He offered rewards, interviewed witnesses, even hired private investigators. All they could find was a small fishing boat spotted near the burning yacht. But no name. No trace. Meanwhile, Ethan returned to his quiet life, working odd jobs and caring for Noah. His hands still ached from the burns he refused to treat properly, but he didn't complain. "Dad, are we gonna be okay?" Noah asked one night as they ate canned soup in their small cabin. Ethan smiled softly. "We always are, kiddo. We don't need much, just each other." But one stormy morning, their worlds collided again. A sleek black car pulled up by the docks, and out stepped Alexander Knight himself, still in bandages but walking tall. His eyes scanned the fishermen until they landed on Ethan. Ethan froze, holding a net full of fish. "You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. Alexander approached, his voice trembling. "You saved my life. I needed to find you, to thank you." "There's no need," Ethan replied, glancing at Noah. "You're alive. That's enough." Alexander studied the man's rough hands, tired eyes, but the calm strength of someone who had known both loss and love. "You could have died that night. Why did you do it?" Ethan looked out at the sea. "Because someone once saved me when I didn't think my life mattered. I promised I'd do the same if I ever could." For a long moment, silence hung between them, two men from opposite worlds, bound by one act of courage. Alexander then noticed Noah, standing shyly behind his father. "You've got a brave kid," he said gently. Ethan's eyes softened. "He's the reason I'm still standing." Alexander hesitated, then reached into his coat. "At least let me help. You've given me a second chance at life, maybe I can give you one too." Ethan shook his head. "Money can't fix what life broke." But Alexander smiled knowingly. "Maybe not. But friendship can." Epilogue: A New Dawn. Months later, Ethan found himself standing on the deck of a rebuilt fishing dock, not his old one, but a new one funded quietly by an anonymous donor. He never asked questions, but he knew who it was. Noah ran around laughing with Alexander beside him, teaching him how to skip stones. The billionaire, once surrounded only by lawyers and boardrooms, now laughed like a child again. Ethan watched them with quiet gratitude. Maybe he hadn't just saved a man that night, maybe he'd saved two. And as the sun rose over the calm sea, he finally realized something: sometimes heroes don't wear suits or capes. They wear scars and keep their hearts open, even after they've been broken.